Hello, Heatseekers. It's the Heat Sheet. Hello, Heatseekers, and welcome to the Heat Sheet's Melter Ratings edition of, I suppose, our Clash at the Castle review. We did a preview last week. If you want to go and see how long we got everything on that, you can go back onto YouTube and listen to that along with our interview with Drew McIntyre that we carried out. But today, we are going to be dropping our review of Glasgow's first ever WWE PLE. And Billy, how did you find the show overall on Saturday? What was your kind of your immediate takeaways from the comfort of your couch in Elgin?
I was a really easy watch, which is always the most important thing for me as a wrestling fan. Is I'm not feel like I'm sitting there for hours watching wrestling. It was a very brisk, brief show. We got to a lot of pops, a lot of cool things happening didn't expect, and we're going to get through some of the things that were very unexpected, and we can kind of see how I thought about it when 190 miles away and you were there yards away from it. But no, it was a great show, and I would have went to bed at a regular time, but I stayed up to watch ICW after hours on Triller, so I'm a glutton for punishment when it comes to the wrestling.
A glutton for punishment or committed to the bit, I would say, Billy. You know, you can't. If one thing we cannot accuse you of is not being dedicated to your love of Scottish wrestling and wrestling that's taking place in Scotland. So, before we get into the Clash stuff, how was all the other bits and bobs of Scottish wrestling around the weekend? How have you found that to have turned out?
Well, I've got all the results from, I think there's like 10 or 11 shows. I think, barring galas. I don't count galas when it comes to result upkeep. Because, you know, there's really matches.
Galas there, and then
no.
You were meaning gala days.
So I got all of them. So it looks like there's a hell of a lot of wrestling from Wednesday until Sunday, and lots of interesting things happening. Of course, one of the most interesting being After Hours Night 1 for ICW. Jack Jester brought out Big Drew for a moment, and that was, I think there was always like maybe they'll have Drew turn up, and lo and behold, there he was. I would have loved if the main event in Night 1 was Rio versus Molly Spartan for the ICW Women's World Championship. I would have loved it if Piper turned up then as well, just to kind of put her stamp of approval on the women's division in ICW. That would be nice, but you know, it's like sprinkles on a cake. I'm still getting cake.
Yeah.
So I'm happy either way.
Good stuff. Well, we are going to look at this through. We've done this before. We've had our melter ratings, you know, where the heat sheet, hot shit melts. So I thought, you know, the melter ratings would be quite good. So Billy's going to give us his take on how the show came across on television. I'm going to give my take on how it came across from being in the Hydro, and then we'll work an average melter rating for each of the matches. So the show kicked off with the I Quit match between Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles. It's a match that was going to be hard to live up to the match from Leon a couple of weeks back. But Billy, how did you find out that one parlayed on telly?
It was a very kind of reserved I Quit match. I felt like it wasn't a lot of like big. I mean, both got blood. Mama Rhodes got a humongous chant, of which you got to see on the TV. You got to see Jack Jester like 3 rows behind, just going, "Come on, punch her," kind of thing. Punch him at the same time. So the crowd were incredible, though. They were all in on Cody. The woe was loud. I assume that it was even louder being right in the pit of it all as well. But the crowd really made this one. Like I said, I think if you took the crowd away, it wouldn't have been as high, maybe on my melter scale, because they were just so heavy into every moment that happened, including chanting "Kinky Bastard" during the handcuff section.
Yeah.
But it was still a really good match. I haven't actually seen the whole match at Leon, so I don't have a barometer to put it against for that. But I really enjoyed it. It was a really quick I Quit match, but when you look at the time scale, I think it was like 20 minutes or something like that. So it was still a lot of content, a lot of emotion moments as well. So if I'm going to put a stamp on it, I'm going to say probably the higher matches on the show. I'm going to put four on my melter scale.
Cool, cool. Well, being there in the crowd, it was the hottest opener they could give us. We kind of thought they would maybe have Cody come out first, so that you're getting Kingdom as the first pop and just really setting the show off. But this new, if it's Death Rebel or whoever it is that have kind of bastardised the AJ Styles theme tune, it didn't quite give you that immediate kick-off, but the crowd were fully behind Cody. So as AJ was coming out, it was almost drowned out by the Cody Rhodes chants. And then when Kingdom did hit, like if the Hydro had a roof, and again I think I'm kind of paraphrasing what Cody Graves had said, if the Hydro had a roof, it would have been clinging on for his dear life to stay on there because it was just absolutely electric. One of the things from the vantage point that I had, we were sat behind where the boom mic would have been moving in and out of play. So we didn't actually see AJ come out. Like we could see the bit where he was coming out from, but it wasn't until we got to the ring we're like, oh, there he is. There he is. But once the two of them got to it, it was nowhere near as technical a match as the Backlash one was, and it obviously wasn't going to be because it was going to be a party match, a plunder match. And I think that they executed a lot of the spots very well. The bump when AJ went for the phenomenal forearm with the chain and get hit in the face with the chair, then bumped off the top rope, off the apron through the table. It was one of the bumps of the night and got one of the biggest, reactions of the night in terms of something in the ring that happened. And I've seen a few kind of replays of that with some kind of cartoon sound effects over it, which makes it even better.
Yeah.
But that was class. There was a bit of a disappointment when AJ brought out the velvet bag. Everyone was like, "Oh, thumbtacks coming," and it was just the handcuffs. We were like, "Oh, that's a bit subdued, or a bit rubbish compared to what we were anticipating." I think even Cody Graves on commentary, watching it back this morning, he's like, "Oh, we know what's coming now," and then he was like,
I thought it was going to be Glass. I thought because Punk's there, I thought there might have been a little bit of rib on him. They were going to take out Glass, and well, we didn't know Punk was there at the time. Spoilers, people. But yeah, I thought it was being Glass. But yeah, drawing pins, I suppose they would be called in the UK if they were doing it there. But yeah, I thought it was going to be the same. And then when it was a chain and handcuffs, I was like, all right, okay, this will be nice, but would have been nice to see some thumbtacks in there.
Yep. And obviously with the Mama Road stuff getting involved towards the end, that was the emotional pull. And I thought they could have maybe used that more in the kind of the I quit stipulation. I think there could have been more jeopardy used with Mama Rhodes. I know she was there to facilitate what happened after the finish, because Cody finds out that AJ had been going at her. And that's why after AJ had quit, Cody Rhodes went back with the steps on him. But I thought they could have had that in reverse, AJ or the Good Brothers threatening to do something to Mama Rhodes that almost gets Cody to say I quit. That could have been maybe a stronger pull on there, because the actual finish had a lot of people in the crowd, certainly around about us, being like, "Huh? Is that it?" Because it just seemed, not that he came out of nowhere, but it just seemed like a kind of weak finish. And they had done something very similar in the Adam Copeland Christian Cage payoff a couple of weeks back as well, where Christian handcuffed to the ropes and Adam coming at him with a barbed wire baseball bat. So I thought it was, I know there's a lot of stealing each other's homework goes on between the companies, but I thought that was a bit disappointing in that regard. And that kind of tempers my scoring of it, because again, I was very, very high on it up until the way that it finished. So I was going to give it a 3.5. So
the way you're talking about it and reminding me, but my brain was going, I think I'm going to drop it at a 3.5 because maybe I'm just looking at it through rose tinted specs a little bit. But the more you're talking about it, the more points you're making that are like, yeah, you're right, kind of thing. So to make the math easier, I'm agreeing with that as well. I will drop mine down to 3.5.
No worries. So the opener, the I Quit match between Cody and AJ gets a 3.5. Melter rating. Again, depending on how much work I've got, I might put a wee graphic in that goes ping or whatever on that. I don't know.
Before we get to the next match, we were talking about the first initial pop with thinking it may have been Kingdom. Are you shocked that Triple H didn't come out? Because I thought Triple H would have had the first big pop, especially after the kickoff the day before.
I, to be honest, I don't think it needed it. I think it would have been cool, but the production was very slick all the way through. Because and again, being in attendance, there was plenty of time for you between matches to go and get a drink, go to the toilet, or even as I did at the end of or before the show started, put my phone in one of the lockers to get it charged up during the match.
That's
There
cool.
was plenty of time to go out and then come back in before you missed anything. Now, I did end up missing the solo bit because of that, because I nipped out to get my phone, came back in, and I just saw Randy Orton in his pants for absolutely no reason as I was coming back in. So I was like, oh, what did I miss? But I think other than, I think the way that they formatted it, you didn't really feel the breaks, the length of the breaks in it. And I know that on the stream they've got all the Peacock stuff and whatnot on there. So I think it would have been cool had Triple H came out, but I don't think the show suffered for not having it.
Absolutely. Cool. Yep.
So straight after that one, we went into the women's tag team match between the defending champions of Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill against Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark, and the unholy union of Isla Dawn and Alba Fire. This match for me, I don't think it was ever going to be, a 4 or a 5-star match, but it broke down, or the kind of the air was sucked out of people's investment in the match when Jade watched the rope, the springboard off the rope. Now, I've seen from going through social media and whatnot, there did seem to be an issue with the ropes throughout the night. I think when AJ came out, he went to do his kind of spring his chest off the ropes and whatnot, and then he said to the ref that needs tightened. Bianca had her moment on it, and obviously in the way that Damien Priest's leg nearly twisted right off in the main event, that possibly doesn't happen if the ropes are in better nick. But I just feel that from that moment on, Jade was kind of chasing her tail a bit in the match, and it was evident that she was kind of looking for guidance from the other 5 women involved in the match. But again, in a kind of reverse of the way that the main went, purely because it was the hometown crowd and Isla Dawn and Alba Fire picking up the win, I celebrated that as if it, like a Scotland winner. I was up at my seat at various points during the night. But that was the first one that really kind of got me. Oh, because there was a surprise on it. If you're going to say that any title was going to change hands, that was probably the least likely.
Yeah.
Going into it. So that kind of brought up the in-house experience of that match for me. What was your thoughts on it watching it?
Yeah, Jade Cargill had a rotter, but not anything. I don't think it was anything particularly her fault, like you're saying with the ropes. I think you're right. After she slipped, that was kind of her just fucked, really. Just to be honest, that's the best way to put it. The tap out as well. She tapped out to Shayna Baszler twice, and it was just by pure luck that Jessica Carr was behind Shayna, so it couldn't actually see it, because otherwise she would have had to exploit or try to work her way out so she couldn't see it or anything. I don't know how, but Jessica Carr is probably one of the best refs in WWE we've got, so she probably would have had a way to do it.
We'll get back to Jess Carr later on as well, because there's a couple of things, one positive, one negative I want to say about it as well on there. But yeah, it was fortunate of the timing of the tap, but there was a second one that she definitely did see. There's a second tap.
Yeah, I think at that point I was too busy going, she just tapped out. I didn't see the second tap because I was like looking around in my living room, like how's it still going? But as far as the match itself, yeah, it wasn't the best match on the show, but it probably provided the best moment for the local fans, for Scottish fans, because we got to see. Isla Dawn, great, fine, but for Kaylee Ray, for Alba Fire specifically, it was amazing to see her become a champion in the Hydro in Scotland, and to see them literally get their flowers and see Stevie Boy there. Stevie Boy was Xavier was there to to give her a hug and everything like that, especially after all the things that she's went through the last couple of weeks with
Mhm.
her mum passing away and things like tragically, not even like it was expected, just
Yeah,
tragically passing
just an
away.
awful, awful thing for the happen to her.
To see her have that moment, um, we'll get into their bits, but that her getting that moment was just amazing. And like I stood there when you said you stood up, I literally when the 3 count was made, I was like, what? What? Like I didn't expect that to happen because, like you're saying, it was the most unexpected title change to get, and Bianca and Jade reacted perfectly to it. They just looked like dumbfounded. They didn't know
Mhm.
what was happening, and um, Zoe Stark had a really good match.
She did
But Shayna
the
was fine, but Shayna's kind of got you gotta like or dislike Shayna. She's a very Marmite wrestler for her style, but Zoe had a really good one in this one.
her drop kicks are incredible. Zoe Stark's drop kicks and that top rope flip, whatever
Mhm.
that was. I don't think she actually landed it on Isla Dawn. Like looking it back, but just the form and the speed that she was able to do that at. I think it was pretty good. And I know she's kind of been pushed and then depushed a wee bit. She had that feud with Becky Lynch. I think towards the end of last year as well. But I think she's probably somebody that deserves to have a decent run on the women's roster there. If she like over and above being in the tag side of things. Uh, the last thing that I want to say on the outcome of the match, and I was fortunate enough to get a last minute invite into the presser, the press conference after the show, and one of the first things that Triple H said was that in no way was that decision indicative of what had been going on in Alba Fire's personal life. Like they got that on merit. They've been
Mhm.
given it on merit. They've worked hard. They've done well to convince, not convinced, but to get themselves onto that card, they put in a hell of a shift to do so, and they've 100% merited. He said it would have been very easy for us to do it out of sentimentality or words to those effects, but it was something that was deserved, and I'm really excited to see what they can do with the tag titles because it seems to be a bit of a poison chalice the women's tag titles in
Mhm.
WWE. The amount of injuries and relinquishments and stuff that have gone on with it have been a bit ridiculous. But I'm very happy that Alba Fire and Isla Dawn are the champions, and for the kind of the experience of it all. And there, I am going to give that match a 3. I think that's it's going to get a 3.
It would be 2.5 if it wasn't the local asses winning.
Mm.
So no, I'm not gonna match you all the way. I'm gonna keep it at 2.5 for the match itself.
2 point.
2.5
So that's
for the moment. Yeah, you bump on an extra wee melter star in there, but for the match itself, 2.5.
So a 2.75, 2.75 on the Melter scale there. So the fulcrum, I was going to say the kind of the centre point of the show was Sammy against Chad. We predicted on last week's heat sheet that would be the back page, the kind of the performance wise match of the night, and I think it probably was. I think in terms of the two men going at it, we got what we expected. We got all the drama that surrounded the Gable and Otis and Maxine stuff. We had the Willie Won't A stuff with Otis. You had Chad inadvertently near enough snapping Maxine's leg as well. And the only thing that I think we didn't expect coming out of it was the fact that Sammy retained. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think the clever money would have been on Gable taking that belt, considering that he had just re-signed with the WWE as well. Um, Crowd fully behind Otis. The amount of chants for Otis that were going on during that match. I don't know if it ever came up on the television or not. I've not got that far into the show, watching it back. But they had a decibel meter that would show up on the Tron, and if there was like, it was basically they're trying to artificially create noise at certain points in the match with it. And it was really prevalent during this match. And I don't know if that came across on telly, if if the crowd seemed to get a lot louder for no particular reason.
I didn't notice. I didn't notice if it was out of nowhere. It seemed like the whole show, if there was a lull at any point, then the crowd would kind of entertain themselves. But
Hmm.
I know that can go either way. That could be really bad, where they're kind of hijacking, or it could be really good where they're actually adding something to the match. Like they did that for the first match with the I Quit match. If there's a little lull, they would start getting to a Cody Rhodes chant, and everyone would be like hyped up again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I didn't notice anything particularly artificial about the moment, about the chants being popped in or what have you. But then again, I was kind of keeping my volume on a very balanced level because I've got a 2-year-old upstairs sleeping, so I didn't want to get it too loud at the same time. But no, I didn't notice particularly.
But in terms of the in-ring action, were you compelled by the emotional pull of the Alpha Academy storyline that went through it?
Yeah, I mean the wrestling was fine. I don't know why I don't remember a lot of the match. That's the thing. I remember the closing angle bit with Otis and all that sort of thing. I think if I'm watching this weekly, I would be more invested in the Alpha Academy thing, but I'm not. I'm seeing highlights on YouTube. I'm not actually being drawn into the story as much, so I'm just taking it as I'm seeing it. Because I find Maxine kind of overacts a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
Otis was great though. Every time Otis moved, the crowd seemed to love Otis, and he did the little step in front of Chad. Chad is so menacingly like intense. One of those
Yeah.
three eyes are using an effect there. Um, you could just feel that he could snap Maxi Dupree. Like I don't think they ever would do that on television. Maybe when
No.
Netflix editor comes in, who knows? But you feel like he could like just grab her ankle, just twist it. So that came across. But as far as the in ring, it was from what I remember. For what I didn't feel bad about it at the end, so I felt like it was a good match, and I would have preferred Chad to win because now what's he kind of left with? If Sammy was doing the old stand in the ramp, going, no more rematches,
Yeah.
that's it, and Chad was just staring a hole through him, like so, like blank, but
That was
intense at the same
one of
time.
my favourite bits of that was just how Gable never took his eyes off Sammy for the whole duration of after the finish, and he looked genuinely like he could murder someone.
Mhm.
Uh, Again, we don't get regulated a lot in what we say, but it just myself and Dale had been joking that he'd pulled out a lot of Benoit moves during the match as
Mm.
well.
Yeah, the headbutt. I remember. Yeah,
And the headbutt and the crossface in there, and just that look that he was given at the end was very kind of reminiscent of the intensity that Benoit would have in these matches as well. And I hope that's not they're going down with him, but it was just
Mhm.
it felt very a bit kind of drawing into the teeth a bit. Oh, it's a bit quite close on that. But
Mhm.
in terms of the match itself, Sammy was just it was a Sammy 101 match.
Yeah. I think Sammy himself, you get 3. That's a baseline for Sammy. It's a 3, and then if you get something more, great. It very rarely goes under that 3 line
Mm.
for a Sami Zayn match in the Melter scale.
I think as well, like it's very rare that you see Sami Zayn show off in a match. He's
Mhm.
very, a lot of the time he's fighting for them underneath, but whatnot. But when he went to do the tope, but he instead turned that into like the back somersault off the rope kind of thing,
Yeah.
which I'm pretty sure there's a masked guy used to do that quite a bit. I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed that kind of showmanship from because you don't really see that, and maybe it's because it was the crowd amping him up because the sing along with his tune coming out that went on for ages as well. Um, so yeah, I was very very pleased with that, and I think in terms of the story told, the action in the ring, and I'm happy that Sammy has kept the belt in a way. I would have preferred to go to Chad. I think on my Melter rating, this one's going to get a 4.25.
Well, I'm gonna screw with your maths now because I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
3.5, so that will be about a three. I'll give that'll be about a 3.9, something
We'll
like
go
that.
with that.
We'll go
So
with
this
that.
was also the match that had the Uncle Howdy tease on
Yes,
screen. I don't know if you got it on the things above you, but
we heard it.
this
We heard something happen because me and DL were a bit like we were wondering what the noise initially was, and I said, "I bet that's an Uncle Howdy thing." And sure enough, that's what it was, and it'll be interesting to see. I think is it the massacre that that they've kind of used the name on the graphic with it?
Oh,
Massacre is
I,
coming.
I saw Reckoning, but hopefully that's spelling the return of Slapjack
Yeah.
and Dijak is I can't remember what his name was. Mace, no, Mace was him from
No,
Max
no,
Models.
it was Massey. No, it was Mace because it was. I can't remember what his original name was when he was doing the commentary, but yeah, I'm sure Mace was his
Yeah,
destination name.
but I can't remember what Dijax was. But this is a diatribe we don't need to go down to this
Yeah.
moment, so we'll just move on. But yeah, that was what appeared through there. It looks like Monday Night Raw. We're getting the Wyatt Six or whatever they're calling themselves. So whether it's happened before or after this goes out, we'll probably speak about it next week.
Yep. There was also during the main event, we spotted someone on the hard cam side getting planted in the crowd and then taken back out, and they looked very Uncle Howdy-ish. They looked like they had an oversized kind of head thing on,
Right.
and to me it looked like almost like Tyler Vex used to look with big
Okay.
dreadlocks, but they were like black and blonde dreadlocks, and it looked like a crushed velvet red suit. But they literally, I watched the person being walked towards a seat, sat down for 30 seconds, and then marched back to backstage. So I'm wondering if they're going down, if that has been an Uncle Howdy type thing, it's going to be like we've been hiding in plain sight all along, and they'll be able to show clips of that. It's maybe happened at another few shows and whatnot. But it was just it caught my eye because we were kind of we were waiting for any type of run in from someone. Where we were would have been the key spot from for them to run in from behind commentary.
Mm-hmm.
They would have had to run past us for that, so we kind of had our head on a swivel for anything happening up the left hand side of us, and that was the kind of the main thing that we noticed. So who knows? That might be the case on there as well. But the Uncle Howdy Wyatt Six, whatever that's going to be, will all be unveiled by the time you're listening to this, probably. So yeah, from Sammy and Chad, we went into Bailey against Piper Niven. Did Piper get a massive pop on her entrance? Because that was the one entrance that I missed.
No, and it sounds really bad. I don't remember her getting it. She got a little bit of a roar and everything, but I think by that point you're 4 matches in. Folk have spent a ridiculous amount on alcohol, and they just wanted to chant "Hey Bailey." So Piper didn't get as much of a hometown reaction than I would have liked or would have thought she would have, which is a shame. But in the wider scale of things, it's not just Scots that are going to be there. She's a heel, so she shouldn't really be getting those reactions anyway if it was anywhere else. But yeah, it seemed to be a bit more diluted, subdued on TV. I could be wrong. I could go back and watch it, and it's probably one of the loudest reactions of the night. But I don't remember it being the loudest because everyone wanted to sing "Hey Bailey," and she even pointed to Piper, going, "Can you hear that? Can you hear that? They're chatting for me," kind of thing. So yeah, it was a shame because the match was a hell of a solid match, and we got to see Chelsea Green and Tartan, which that was a very. I'm not saying there's a bucket list things of I want to see in wrestling, but that somehow made it on there very much last second and ticked off straight away. But yeah, the match itself was a good match. It was a really good match, but and a very surprising ending as well.
Yeah, I thought those various points during the match where I thought Piper was going to do it. To actually think of the spots in particular, but there was points where she was easily overpowering Bailey. I don't think Bailey got an awful lot of major offense in on her. She went for the finish a couple of times, but I don't think she actually hit a finish in the match. It was she ended up doing the kind of the crucifix bomb with the kind of the really awkward looking but still cool looking pin to get the win. But it was I really enjoyed the match. I've always enjoyed watching Piper in various guises. And I think the match went longer than I anticipated it going as well. So I was kind of surprised that she didn't pick up the win, but I think given that Bailey had went so long without having the title, I think having a long reign for Bailey is the right decision, whether that only goes to SummerSlam or even Money in the Bank with that coming up soon. But I was quite impressed with the match. Again, not good, not great, I would say. And I think I think if they had put Piper over, that would have maybe signposted what was to come in the main, because you wouldn't have all three champions Scottish.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be the case. But I think she did very well, and as we mentioned on last week's show, the whole thing coming about around the anniversary of Lionheart's death as well. You could tell that the emotion was running high with her, and she paid tribute to Adrian in that as well. So, all in a decent match. But I'm going to go with a solid 3 for that one on the Melter rating.
We are on the same wavelength. This I was going to go 3, so yeah, I'm going to go 3 with it as well. Yeah, like I said, it might have got bumped up if she won, but it's overall. I don't think you could pick many, if any, holes in the match itself. It was a very solid, competent match, which is the least you'd expect with these two anyway. Chelsea Green adding a little bit of flair and pomp as well when she was in and about things. People seem to love her, and when she came out, or I'm assuming it's her in the mask. We don't actually know if she was in the Rey Mysterio mask.
Yeah,
that got a loud reaction.
We'll never know.
No, absolutely. I think Dom Mysterio tweeted about it not long afterwards as well. So that's a nice little funny little side bit in there. But no, I think three's fine for it. But like I say, yeah, Piper nice wee tributes with the elbow pads as well. The knee pad that said Adrian on it. With the second rope, Bailey to belly, so she had to go back. Bailey had to go back to her old kind of tricks to try and get an advantage. So I'd like to see it run back. Maybe throw a stipulation in there somewhere, but I can't see it go to SummerSlam. Maybe a rematch at Money in the Bank. I
think Piper would be a great one to put into the Money in the Bank match, women's Money in the Bank, because you need. I think more so with the women's Money in the Bank matches than the men's, you need somebody that's a solid post, someone that people can be slammed off of or slammed onto, or be used as a good base for a lot of the more aerial ones. And one of the things that Money in the Bank has suffered from, and suppose to an extent any kind of women's hardcore match has suffered from, is the power or the impact of them going through ladders or tables or something. I think we've seen it with Nia Jax in the past as well, and even Beth Phoenix. I think the bigger the lady is, the better it looks when they smash through something. They don't look like they're just bouncing off, like Sasha Banks years ago, bouncing off tables without them breaking and stuff. So I think for the whole aesthetic of the Money in the Bank, I think Piper should be involved in that, and I think she should get a good showing in it.
I agree. Yep, absolutely.
So that takes us on to the main event. The main event that we were all convinced was going to send the crowd home happy between the World Heavyweight Champion Damien Priest and Scotland's warrior, Scotland's hero, the man who has done more for the Scottish tourism industry in the last week than anybody could possibly wish to do in this decade, Drew McIntyre. And yeah, we didn't get what we wanted, Billy. We did not get what we wanted.
We did not. But before the 3 count, what a match! It was just they didn't bother with all this rest hold and subtleties. That's for the weak. They just went and slammed each other, and then even with the Damien Priest almost breaking his leg moment, it didn't. We thought, it might speed up things. Oh, Drew's going to win in now 5 minutes, ace. But Damien was great in this as well. He had an amazing main event match, and he's. I think he was right in his press conference. Like, people keep kind of writing him off, but we saw his match in Puerto Rico with Bad Bunny. This guy is a main event player. We just have to. There's so many bigger people around him at the moment, but if one goes, Damien just keeps going up the list, kind of thing. So this was till the ending. This was kind of break my Melter scale for a moment. But yeah, being there, I'm guessing was just absolutely electric as well.
Yeah, from the moment the pipe band came out and got everybody kind of rabble roused for it, and then Drew's entrance theme hitting, it was just so loud in there. Again, I was expecting Broken Dreams because he'd mentioned it in the kickoff thing on Friday. It's been getting teased for ages and ages, and I was really hoping Broken Dreams would be the thing, because I think that would have broke the decibel meter thing that they had.
That hit 106, I noticed, during his entrance. And I think they're going to have Broken Dreams, but it's going to be when he's against Punk. Because that's I think that song lends into that match the most out of any other matches it's been teased for. That's the time you bring it in. But yeah, again, sorry, back to what you're saying.
No, it's a valid point. It's just, it has to come back at some point, because I think that would just not that he's not capable of being the face of the company, not that he's not a bona fide main eventer. It's just, that's what everyone wants from him. That's the song that they want. You know, if I know that they pissed about with like Triple H's themes and Stone Cold's themes and The Rock's themes and stuff like that, but it's still very much a variation of what you knew of it. Broken Dreams just, it has to come back at some point. But anyway, the crowd was mad for it. You couldn't hear the Judgment Day theme at one point during, or the Priest's theme when he was coming out, because everyone was shouting, doing Seven Nation Armies, or the Seven Nation Army to Drew McIntyre's name. You just couldn't hear it, especially when they get into the ring. And it was just very, very, very loud. And that carried on throughout the majority of the match. Again, I felt, kind of like with the Jade Cargill rope thing, it did feel for a moment that the air was going to get sucked out of the building when Priest got his leg caught. And I was worried, like you were saying there, it would have been very easy for them to call the audible if it was very, very severely hurt from it. But I'm glad that they carried on, because it, if anything, it showed how much Priest wanted it. Because we knew that he was fucked. We knew that ankle was hanging on like the last bit of your pot noodle. You could see it hanging at various points, but he still ended up doing numerous spinning heel kicks.
The Razor's Edge.
The Razor's Edge on one foot. Yeah, just incredible that he was able to do that. And again, that's the adrenaline pushing him through on there of it. So I thought it was a great performance from Priest. Drew, again, like we said about Sammy, we got a perfect Drew match. Hard hitting, claymores, fists, everything that you'd want from it. And then when the ref bump happened, we were like, oh no.
It's like, who's coming out? I think that was kind of the thought. Is it Judgment Day? Is it Carlito? Is it Gallus? Who's coming out? And then this referee, which must be perfect for you, because you wouldn't have seen it until he got to the ring.
Well, we didn't see it until we got to the ring, but at the point we saw it, we knew it was Punk, because you could see his face.
Right.
Whereas on telly, all you saw was the ref sweeping in.
It was the Jordans that kind of gave it away for me, because you just saw the back of them, and I saw the Jordans. I was like, oh no. I was like, it turned around, the camera angle changed, and it was Punk just with that shit-eating grin as well. I'm like, oh no, you bastards, you absolute bastards.
It was incredible, and like, to be honest, there was boos for them, but it wasn't like overwhelming boos from where we were sitting. It was more kind of like a shock kind of thing, and it wasn't until after the finish that the louder boos came.
Mm-hmm.
But
it was muted at our end. We only heard the Judgment Day theme and the commentary. We didn't hear the crowd. So it must have been, I was hearing there was some, I mean, I've sworn this podcast already, but I don't think I'll go into what I've heard was being chanted after the bell went.
Aye, there was a lot going on after the bell, but when Punk initially appeared, there was the shock, but there was no immediate boos for him. Or certainly it wasn't 11,500 people booing him. And I think maybe a photo that had circulated earlier in the day might have had something to do with that, with him being in the Celtic shop. And again, with the when he turned up to the presser with Celtic zipper on, and with that going kind of viral as well, I think he's ingratiated himself to a good chunk of Scotland at Drew McIntyre's expense. But yeah, the way that the finish came about, I think it was well done. Obviously, we were wanting to send us home happy, have him with that. And again, with everything that they'd done, the amount of press that he'd done, the the TNT Sports hype packages that he'd done, the homecoming thing that played before the match, the
Mhm.
the pipe band, everything like that.
The Hall of Fame induction and
Yeah.
stuff like that. You're thinking, I think I said, I don't know if it was in our group chat or another one. I went, if Drew loses, he's going to look like a right twonk. That he's spent
Mm.
all this week doing all this stuff, and then he's going to lose at the end of it. But the way they did it kind of saved it because that it just makes us want to see Punk Drew even more.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I said to DL after the finish. I was like, could it be argued that Drew feuding with Punk is bigger than that title?
Mm.
Because obviously Cody's the undisputed one. That's the one that he's gone through all the Bloodline saga for, finishing the story, all that kind of thing. That's the premier title on there. But being in a massive, massive personal vindictive feud with arguably the most controversial wrestler of modern times, I would say that that's bigger than the World Heavyweight title.
Yeah, I mean, imagine that that's a main event on its own.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have a main event. I mean, Drew is technically on the lineage. He's won the world title in front of a crowd. He's won the world title in front of a Thunderdome, a crowd, and the Performance Center. I think that's a pretty weird and incredible trifecta, anyway. But to be able to main event a pay per view with no title, so it's all based on story. I
Mm.
don't know if I mean you're. I mean, you did a bit of the wrestling, but for you as a wrestler, that must be incredible to think that you've got so many people, the crowd's the
Yeah,
palm of your hands, and there's no titles. It's all purely story based. That's why you're seeing this match.
yeah. I mean, my retirement match. No one gave a fuck. No one gave a fuck about that. So I didn't have the investment. I get squashed. I get squashed in my way out. So there was clearly no investment from management or the crowd, other than the fact they got to do the na na hey hey chant to me on my way out. But to go back to your point, to be able to get a crowd and the storyline to that level where it is surpassing a belt. I think it's incredible, and you see it in local shows, you see it on big stages as well, and I think that this is going to be one for the ages, and even in the presser as well. Not to toot my own horn with the question that I got to ask the Punk, but when he was saying, as long as there's a breath in his lungs, Drew McIntyre will never hold a title in in that company.
Mhm.
Um, why would I want something good to happen to him when he prayed for me
Yeah,
to be injured? Is
Punk just made it perfect. That whole thing, that whole presser, all the amazing questions asked to CM Punk. Um,
thanks.
he just like put that cherry on the moment by doing it. Especially, I don't know if you saw, would have seen Wade Barrett go off on it
No, I didn't see that. No.
oh, he was beside himself. He was saying the Punk should be fired and he shouldn't have been there. He wasn't clear to compete. He shouldn't be a referee. Barrett set that up
Mm.
so well. Then we would get to the press conference and Punk was so calm. He was so collected. He was like, "No, this is the reason why I did this. I'm absolutely one track mind in my decisions. There's no great area here. Drew will not be a world champion. It's just that whole from the match itself to the end of the presser. That was just perfect for me. It was just
Yeah.
it made everything make sense. Even though we're disappointed about the result, it made everything kind of branch off, and it made logistical sense for it all to happen.
We discussed last week that having Drew not win could potentially kill Glasgow as a
Mm.
town. I'm kind of worried that that's the case. If they bring Clash at the Castle back and it's not focused around Drew, happy days. I think that'd be grand. If by that point Gallus are up or Noam Dar's up or there's another Scottish superstar that they're pushing for whatever means, maybe that would be Piper Niven's time, say. But
Yeah.
if they do Clash at the Castle again and the focus is on Drew, no, I don't think anyone's buying it. I don't think people are going to be like it'll either be it's the film me once thing, film me twice,
Yeah.
and I think if they do it on the third attempt, it'd be like, nah. I don't think it would matter as much as what it would have mattered this weekend.
Yeah, I was speaking to Jerry, who's Irish Wrestling Entertainment podcast, and we were discussing that we think that Clash should be in 2 years, but Ireland, and then that could be your Becky Lynch
Yeah,
return, and Becky could have that moment, and maybe Finn Balor as well.
either.
There, Lyra is absolutely. She could be involved. So I think that's your next step for that. As far as Killing the Town, they've risked having the biggest arena gate for that, and I think people will possibly think twice to pay those prices again to go to arena show. So they've got a little bit of having to try and pull that back a little bit. Maybe if they came up to a arena that has a bigger attendance, like Aberdeen, for example, they could do it. But no, they're risking it, and I think that's why Glasgow or Scottish State wasn't on the autumn tour, because I think they knew that they were taking a risk with it, so they've went, right, we're going to give Scotland a year off just to hype us back up again, so we can go back to the Hydro and not charge £300 a ticket.
That was something like in the press again about wanting to pull the curtain back too much on it. Each person that turned up in the presser was assigned the 3 or 4 questions. The Punk one was a surprise. Nobody knew Punk was coming in because they announced everyone coming in. And then with Triple H, they get 4. If I had got the question, I know it's very, very easy to say this in hindsight, but if I managed to get a question in with Triple H, it was going to be great that you got that record attendance. But do you think that the pricing has priced out a lot of people, a lot of families, a lot of people that would have wanted to get to that? And had you been able to get a Murrayfield or an Ibrox or a Parkhead or a Hamden or something like that, would the price point have been drastically lower for it? Because I think that is a big talking point about it. One of my friends from back home, he went both nights, him and his son, and it cost him the best part of $1,000 to go. And in this cost of living time, I know that we don't want to get too political on here, but that kind of pricing is mental. And if you're getting a record gate from 11,500 people, you must surely know that you're kind of getting a hand in with it.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Back onto the match. For the Melter Vein, I'm going to give it a 4.5, 4.5. I'm going forward with it. I think with the emotion, the performance, the finish, and as you say, what happened after the finish as well. If Drew had won, it would begin a 5 because you couldn't not give it, five stars, 5 melters, whatever that is. But I think for what we got, 4.5, a high 4.5.
I would agree as well. I think two of us shouldn't do Melter ratings together because we seem to have the same kind of thought.
Well, no, it's good for me because it's telling me that it came across just as well on television as it did in the arena. So if I hadn't got to it, I would have got a good experience from it, I suppose. You're getting value. You're getting value there with your network subscription. I'll go back through these here. So the opening match, the I Quit match between Cody and AJ Styles, we gave 3.5. The Unholy Union winning the women's tag belts got a 3. Sammy and Chad got 3.9. Piper and Bailey got 3.0. And the main event of Damien Priest retaining his title against Drew McIntyre got 4.5 on the heat sheets. Melter ratings. Now, I don't know how much more content we'll get up this week, and certainly for the upcoming weeks. I am off to Canada at the end of this week, but Billy, Steve, Lewis, Craig, if you can be bothered or if you can find the time, we'll try and put some stuff up if there's any major things going on. Might try and get a Money in the Bank preview done as well at some point over the next couple of weeks. But for now, this has been our Clash at the Castle Melter ratings. Billy, thank you very much for coming on this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
However you enjoy your wrestling over the rest of the summer, come up with your own finish line there. Cheers. Hi, just jumping back in, I'd mentioned in the main part of the podcast there that I had one positive, one negative about Jessica Carr, the referee involved in some of the stuff. The positive, after the women's tag team title match, you could see how much stage direction, I suppose, she does. And a lot of the referees were doing as well, but Jessica really stood out, telling Alba Fire and Isla Dawn exactly where to position themselves for the cameras, telling them when to go, when to stay, all this kind of stuff. So I thought seeing that in the flesh was a really cool moment. The negative, the little clip that WWE put out about how CM Punk's run-in came about, where Punk asks her for a shirt because he just wants one. Why is she not watching that to be the one to go? I mean, I know that it's wrestling and we shouldn't be, trying to put logic into things, but I just thought that was a bit off as well there. But yeah, I'd teed it up, so I thought I'd come back in and tell you about it. All right, cheers. Hello, Heatseekers. It's the Heat Sheet.